What do you mean a metric never perfectly describes a goal? Because I often try, we do OKRs as teams, and it's actually very challenging to ensure that they are very measurable. They tie exactly to the goal. How do you mean about that kind of metric and tied to the goal?
Every metric has a flaw. Active users has fake accounts, like Elon Musk has been telling us with bots, but it matters. You have to have the counter metric.
Sure.
So you can easily do something like registrations, right? Like we right at the beginning of our interview, registered users, confirmed registered users, active confirmed registered users, monthly active users. There's been this journey of the industry over the last 20 years. It all started with everyone claiming about registered users, but it had the negative side effect of them not being confirmed. Confirmed, they weren't active. Activated, they weren't retained. And so actually, like every goal has, the goal is to have lots of people use your service. The way people have measured it is from registered users through to monthly active users through to now we even try and measure people. There are flaws at every step of the way. And if you don't acknowledge and understand the flaws, you will succumb to Goodhart's law, where it's not a good measure anymore.
Can I be blunt? I don't know if founders, like, when does this level of precision, clarity of thought and analysis need to be in place? There's a lot of founders, we have 1.6 million listeners per show, 800,000 founders, and they're listening to this going, oh my God, that's a lot of steps in the funnel. Fuck, we're 5 people in a room. Do you need to have that level of thinking at that stage now, bluntly?
You can skip a lot of steps by just like copying what the big teams have done, right? Meta, back when it was Facebook, innovated by moving from activated, confirmed, registered users to monthly active users. And no one talked about that before. They were still talking about their registered user base back then. It's what MySpace talked about. And so you can step on the shoulders of giants just like we did. I learned from my betters at eBay. You've had Jeff Jordan on this show.
Yeah.
And he built the sedimentary layers view of the world with like, I think Anthony Del Vecchio and other brilliant people. And just learn from who's before and skip a bunch of steps. But secondly, I actually think the best founders I meet are actually precise in their thinking. Now, some of them, their superpower is design. Some of them, it's like hard, deep tech. The hard, deep tech ones tend to get numbers really well. And I do think if you're going to set metric goals for your company, you should be really thoughtful about them. And you should know what Goodhart's law is. And you should actually like understand that if you set the wrong metric, your team will go charging off in the right direction. And metrics and goals are different things. Because no metric properly describes a goal.
When do you change your goal?
That's interesting. I don't know.
I always thought I told you this at lunch, I always thought my goal was money. And we were all terrified to admit that we're all chasing money. But I was always chasing money. And then when I was 21, I've said this before, but I made my first million and I realized that actually I was still the, sad, quite depressed, lonely individual that I was, and hopefully I'm less so now, but it wasn't my goal. And my goal changed then. When should we change our goals?
I mean, when you have new information is probably a trite way to say it. I like to say whatever you do for a job shouldn't be economically stupid. If it's stupid that you're doing the job economically, then you should think really hard about it. But if it's not, then focus on the impact, focus on the people around you. So I'm with you on the money thing. There needs to be a base level, but beyond that, you should focus on other things. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's when you've got different information, but you should change your goals and your metrics very infrequently. You should know what their flaws are. You should know what their drawbacks are, but you should aspire to not change them very often.
Final one before we get to you. When you don't hit a metric or a goal, teams are dejected and they're sad, and you kind of want them to feel, but you also don't want them to be too demoralized. It's like, no, we get on next, we push. How do you strike that fine balance between ambition for the next, even when you fail on the last?
One of the best things that Cheryl actually said in my entire time working with her was the saddest thing is when a team fails having hit all its goals on the way down. And it really stuck with me. Because people worry about everyone being sad. And so you do a forecast and you set the goal off the forecast, but the goal is a losing path. Like, you need to set a goal that puts you on a winning path at the absolute base level. If you hit it and you repeatedly hit them, the metric that you're using to describe it, the goal that you've set out, and you're sad, then you've set the wrong goal. If you set the right goal and you miss it, then the team should be sad because you've set the right goal and the right metric. Get it right.
That's fascinating. So, God, I'm so personal, but fuck it. One of our team's goals that I was doing with him this morning is number of companies he meets per week. It's a good indication of visibility and marketing coverage. But actually, he could hit all of his goals and still be very unhappy because we could make no investments for 10 weeks. And he's met 20 companies a week.
And speaking of good arts law, it's a very easy metric to game. Like, I met BP, I met Shell, I met Price Waterhouse. Like, if it's just number of companies, I can get a lot of meetings. Like,
well, then help me. You really send me an invoice for the consulting fee. How do I change it then? I change it to investments, but I don't want to. If I change it to investments, he can game that too. He can just write a fucking check. I don't want him to do that. That would be.
Well, presumably you have a partner meeting before you make an investment. You make sure everyone's bought in.
Well, no, a consensus decision making, I think, at the very early stages actually leads to poor and very average thinking. Actually, data shows that, very often ideas like Justin.tv, which turned into Twitch. I mean, respectfully to Justin Khan, like strapping a camera to yourself and videoing 24 hours a day, bizarre decision. Like, why would you invest in that? Most brilliant companies started
This is what I mean about I learned from you on the show. This is great. Yeah.
I mean, but there's so many countless ones. I mean, so many. I mean, the guys at Canva couldn't raise $1. They went to 150 VCs, couldn't raise $1. And so no, we don't actually. And one person can write a check. Very important for me. But how do I change that? His goal is 20 companies per week to meet.
Mm-hmm.
If I put it to one investment per month, he can game that too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, countermetrics is the way I talk about it. So, you could look at it as 20 companies per week with a benchmark of you need to get at least one of them to investment grade. Like, that could be a countermetric. Like, nothing is perfect. This is where it comes back to, again, my boss is saying common sense is the least common of all senses. At the very bottom, you need to actually look at it and see if it's being gamed. Like, as an analytics leader, as a product leader, as a company leader, no metric is perfect. No set of countermetrics are perfect. You still need to put logic on the top and common sense on the top.